Yeah, yo, I'm back. The number one G. Here we go. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered a replacement for any legal, health, tax, financial, doctor, or any professional advice.
All right, testing 1, 2. We're live. Well, we're not live. It's recorded, but we're in here with Jimmy Rodriguez. Tell the people first of all, thank you for coming in, man. Thank you for being a part of this. And I love what you do and everything, your ministry. But tell them a little bit about what you do, man.
So, Pastor David, thank you again for inviting me to come out, be a part of your podcast. We've been friends for a long time, brothers in Christ at that, But my name is Jimmy Rodriguez. I am the founder of Redeemed Christian Car Club, a ministry that we started back officially in September of 1993.
93,
man. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was, very young. I was 23. My wife was probably 20, 21. Our son was a year old. Our girls weren't even born yet. Years later is when I went into a career change. So currently I'm a law enforcement officer.
Yes.
With the Phoenix Police Department. 24 years now.
24 years, and that's a tough job, man. That's a tough job. But a little bit about Redeemed Christian Car Club. Now, when you started that, was that the first Christian car club out here in Arizona?
From what I can remember, yes. I remember going to Christian church, first I go back a little bit, growing up with having, uncles or cousins that were older that had cars, and growing up in the lowrider culture, looking at lowrider magazines, cruising with one of my uncles, he had a 67 Thunderbird, and we used to cruise in Cannell Park. Back in like 1980.
67, huh?
Yeah, 67 was Candy Apple Red, all flaked out.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a sweet ride. So just kind of growing up in that culture, right? Building model cars when I was old enough to build model cars. And then when I got a little older, maybe into like 6th grade, middle school, my cousin helped me build one of my first lowrider bicycles, with the Springer forks, the white wall, the chain steering wheel, mirrors,
yeah,
the 8-hanger handlebars.
Yeah, man.
And then we laid some Bondo on the frame, and painted it. Pet Boys was a go-to store back in the day for me. The spray paint, painted it blue with a little bit of flake. But just kind of growing up in that, and when I get older, I'm gonna have me a lowrider.
Yeah.
But so what changed as far as starting a Christian car club? Before I was even saved, again, like I was explaining, kind of laying out the foundation as to like my hobbies and my likes and the styles and the genres of cars that I grew up with and that I learned to like and appreciate. My parents, growing up, they weren't like religious people. But we did what a lot of
Were they Catholic?
So I would say they weren't like devoted or committed Catholics, but it was kind of I was gonna say the typical where Christmas and Easter.
Because I was Catholic, but we never went to church.
Yeah,
we just
the same thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of our thing, Or if we went to a funeral, and that was pretty much our times that we would visit. We would not go regularly, but I was always curious about God. Who's Jesus.
Yeah.
Being even at a young age, being in not preschool, but like in elementary school age, just going to the church when we would go to church on the holidays. And as I got older, like in middle school, and I remember the first time somebody handed me a tract and shared the gospel with me.
This was middle school?
This was junior high school. I was probably like in 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I was a part of we were just called Holiday Park Breakers. There's a park at the Holiday Park, 67th Avenue in Campbell. And I was a b-boy, ever since like probably the late 78, 79, pop locking.
So you grew up in the culture, the hip hop culture, break dancing, pop locking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so that was just always been.
Were you wearing like the baggy stuff?
So when I first started off was mainly the pop locking, like doing like the robot, the moonwalk, the wave, things like that. Back then I would wear like my Dickies. I would wear like a button-up long sleeve shirt.
And so you were like a cholo. That's what I was. I had the one button here, right?
And then the white gloves. Not the single glove like Michael Jackson, but the 2 white gloves, and wear my wino shoes, they call them. And the Mad Doggers, the sunglasses, wearing either a cap or a brim, and just popping, doing king tuts.
Okay.
And then I think it was when I got into middle school is when the breakdancing started hitting, early 80s for me. I've seen it, but I just didn't really see it here. We really didn't see it in the West Coast. I remember seeing stuff on TV, but that caught on to it really quick. And then for me, being athletic, playing soccer, doing karate, doing gymnastics, so I had some flexibility and some coordination, I guess, to transition to the breakdancing. But I try to keep both of them, alive.
So you were in karate.
Yeah.
Okay.
The karate, and I did it was the Shorin-ryu discipline. So
I don't know what that is.
It's just the name of a certain discipline in karate. You have different names, and I don't know the history.
So like really good moves in karate, or
I know some basic stuff. I never got a black belt.
Can you do like a roundhouse kick?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know you're flexible because you do the split sometimes in shows and everything. For a lot of people that are barely knowing who Jimmy is, he does a lot of outreaches with the Lowriders, and we've done a lot of shows together. And he'll get out there and he'll break dance too. And I've seen you do the splits, which seems like it hurts, man. Like I don't know.
Again, I'm without disclosing my age, I was born in 1970.
Oh yeah.
So you do the math. So I can still do the splits, yes. Not like how I used to. I used to be able to spin, stand on my feet, spin around, do like a pirouette, grab one of my feet, raise over my head, and then fall into a split position.
Man,
so
that's crazy, dude.
But so all that, later on, and before I got to know Christ, like I was saying, we were at an event. It was like a performance, and we were being contracted because we were part of the Parks and Recreation Holiday Park, and one of our team leaders, who was a young adult male, he would register for us to either do opening acts at certain conferences, like at Civic Plaza, or when they had big events downtown, or they had even one time they had like the NAACP beauty pageant. We did an opening act for that.
Oh wow!
And quick story on that one. She was my former chief, Chief Jerry Williams. She was participating in this pageant that I had performed in when I was probably 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
So, and years later, I get to work under her as her being my chief. But anyways,
wow, that's crazy.
So somebody at an event, somebody handed me a track, and now again, I was curious, and one of my neighbors, they were Jehovah's Witness. So they would always try to come over and give us literature, and
they stay busy, man.
They do, man.
I you have to appreciate, because I'm a Christian, you're a Christian, right? But you have to appreciate their work ethic. Just going knocking the door to door, man. It's brutal. If you've ever done sales, knock door to door,
right?
It's brutal. I've done that. I used to sell vacuum cleaners for a little bit, and that wasn't fun. That's hard, man. But it taught me how to talk to people, man. It actually helped.
No, exactly, yeah. And then not just the Jehovah's Witness, but even like the Mormons, like they go on their missions. Mission. So you give them credit for that. So I mean, there was I think the devil was just kind of trying to battle for my attention, not just with different religions or doctrines, but just everything else that was out there. The party life, the alcohol,
Yeah.
Sexual morality for me was fornication.
Yeah.
Girls. It was just kind of a thing that I was bound to at a very young age. Um, but I remember this young man just handed me a tract, and he just told me that Jesus Christ loves me and that He's forgiven me of all my sins, and that I just need to repent. And it wasn't one of those, like, you see some of these street preachers, even to me, they kind of turn me off, where they just kind of like Bible thump people.
And they come on too strong.
Yeah, like, and I get some of that. I do. I mean, but it's just like, when Christ came to this, or He didn't come to condemn, but to set us free, to save us. And one of my building foundations was for me to come to Christ is, hearing the scripture says that through the goodness of Christ, it leads us to repentance. The goodness of Christ leads us to repentance, and then of course repentance leads us to salvation.
Yeah.
So when this young man came up to me, here we're at it, like breakdancing. I had my breakdancing outfit on and doing our thing, and he just shared the gospel. He went out of his way and he picked me out of all my crew that was there. But so that, and I remember this guy's face. He was a white male, probably maybe 20 years old.
Yeah.
I picture his face, to this day. But that was for me like the very first time that I can remember somebody actually, planting that seed of salvation, to come to Christ. So anyways, fast forward, I didn't receive Christ then. And it wasn't until, in my high school years, where I started, again, the neighbors, the Jehovah's Witnesses coming to the house, doing Bible studies. And my parents they weren't devoted Catholics, but, we would still go occasionally on seasons, holidays.
Yeah.
During that time, my dad wasn't feeling too well. He was getting sick, but he was an alcoholic, for many, as long as I can remember. I mean, and he was a functioning alcoholic, if that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
He drank, and not to take anything away from him being a provider, because he was a good provider, a good father, a good husband, from what my mom says, but he drank all the time. And part of his downfall was my mom's brothers, my uncles. They were my dad's buddies, and they lived really close, so they would always come over. And that time, my dad was making good money, and he'd always have a refrigerator full of beer in there, and then they'll come and drink, play music. And my mom tolerated it for a long time, but I think the tolerance was starting to dwindle.
Yeah.
And I would see them arguing more. One time, it got a little physical between them, but that's when I started like, man, God, if you're real, I remember, you saying that you love me, and I'm sure you love my parents, and please, I don't want them to get divorced. I was afraid they were going to maybe get divorced, and what's going to happen to the family.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably 13 or 14 years old. Yeah, I think I was a freshman. So a couple of years go by, and then when my dad would get home from work, I would, help him out by cleaning out his lunchbox. At that time, my mom had just started working. She just, wanted to do something as well. She was a stay-at-home mom for the beginning years of me and my sisters being home.
Yeah.
She made her sacrifices with that. But she wanted to get to work. So when my dad get home, I would help. My sisters would help. But I would clean out his lunchbox, and then I would see like literature in there, kind of like similar tracks that looked similar to what that guy gave me.
So somebody was trying to.
Somebody was
giving him the gospel
to my dad. So I'm like, oh man. So I would hold that, and I would just kind of close my eyes, and I would just do the sign of the cross. Again, that yes, and I'll put it back in his lunchbox. I wouldn't throw it out, keep it in there. And at that time, my mom was working. She had a job at a dry cleaners. She, third grade, I think, was the highest education she had. And I remember she would work sometimes at the school as to help, as a teacher's aide. But then she got a full-time job at a dry cleaners. She was learning English, a lot of English, and it's funny hearing her kind of use these big words when she would come home.
Practicing.
Practicing. And my dad was bilingual. You know, my dad was from here and
Okay.
LA, and then my mom's from Chihuahua.
So were you guys living in LA at the time, or were you guys
No,
living?
so my parents actually met in LA when my mom was working here on a work visa. They met in LA.
Okay.
And then in the late '60s, they got married, and then he helped my mom's whole family, her mom and dad, my abuelo, abuela, and all my aunts and uncles, brought them all over to Globe, Arizona.
Globe, Arizona.
A small town, mining town. And
Yeah.
I guess the late '60s. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, there was construction, there was some mining still going on at that time. I think it was more of a copper mine.
So were you raised in Globe?
For about 4 or 5 years of my life, yeah, that's where I was born.
And as it, because I go to Globe a lot, man,
Okay,
because of the mine, you know.
Yeah.
So was it? Because it doesn't seem like it's. I think I've been going there for, man, more than 10 years, and it doesn't seem like it grows any. So did it grow at all?
So this is a funny thing. I every year I go to the Wings of Hope car show.
Yeah, see that.
And
Shout out
Johnny,
to Wings of Hope.
Yeah, Johnny and Monica, you know, awesome people. They went through a tragic event in their life where their son had taken his life, and you know, out of something hurtful and painful, they turn to something good where they want to bring attention to suicide awareness and, you know, faith in God. And but anyway, I don't want to sidetrack, but so I go to these shows to support that event, to support my brother and sister.
Yeah.
But then I was like, man, it really hasn't changed much.
Like
there's these mechanic shops when you're driving through Miami.
Yeah.
There's like, that shop's been there since I was a kid. And I remember that little 35 coupe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right there in the same spot.
On top of the world.
Yeah.
And you go through Superior. Superior seems like that's never changed. Shout out to Superior, Miami Globe, and Top of the World.
Yeah.
They call it Top of the World there. I don't know if it's because the elevation, right? I think it's the elevation.
I mean,
pretty high.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't snow there, but sometimes it
does.
snows.
It does snow sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've gone through there with an 18-wheeler, man, and when it snows going down the hill, right after the Top of the World, and it gets pretty slippery, man. So you gotta be careful. But it's a mining town. For those that don't know it, just look it up in Arizona. And it's I want to say it's the biggest producer of copper in the world. To be honest,
I'm not sure.
Well, I know this. Arizona is the biggest producer of copper, and that's what we were transferring.
Oh, okay.
And I know Arizona produces copper to the world. And at the time of COVID, Arizona was one of the biggest producer of copper to I think China's 25% of the copper came from here.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. You know, you can look it up. But it's a big mine, dude.
It is. And then I don't know if you ever been to Bisbee, way down there, and it's a similar. It's like almost like a reflection of Globe, but Bisbee is more touristy, more developed now.
Yeah.
But it still has that old town, that old hometown feel to it.
Yeah.
But so when my mom and dad met, you know, he wanted to marry my mom. So he had to go to Mexico. Told him, hey, I'm going to marry, you know, your daughter. And hey, by the way,
so you went to Mexico to ask for the hand in marriage.
He wanted to do it right. He wanted to do it right, man.
Like, man, you got to travel all the way.
In Chihuahua, I don't know how far down that is. I've been there twice my whole life, but probably high school was the last time I went down there. So, anyways, you know, so he brings her whole family to Globe, you know, to work, and they you know, got their work visas and all that. And again, back then the immigration thing was a little bit different. It might have been maybe quicker to get like a permanent residence or alien card, and citizenship, you know, was different back then.
Hold on. Shout out to all the truck drivers, because I know a lot of truck drivers that are going to be listening to this that actually go to these mines.
Oh yeah,
they're a bunch of my buddies, and I told them about the podcast, and they've been trying to listen to it as they drive. So shout out to all the drivers out there, the end dump drivers going back and forth. God bless you guys.
As you're driving. Stay safe out there, guys.
Yeah, definitely stay safe. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where, you know, where me and my two sisters were born. I have a sister that's older, and then one that's younger. We moved to Glendale in '78, stayed there for a little while, and then we moved to
78. I wasn't even born.
And then we moved to Phoenix. So it was like kind of short stay there in Glendale, and then we moved to Phoenix right off of like 75th and Indian School, kind of the main cross streets there. And my mom still lives in the same house. So I mean, you know, just growing up, like I said, my dad was just very involved with the family. You know, sports. Got me into soccer and the karate, and very young age, you know, I started playing soccer, and then later he was assistant coach, and then he became like our coach. Okay. But we were like literally soccer fanatics, the whole family. Right. My dad had the boys soccer team, and then he had the girls, well, my sisters, you know. Okay. And then he had a men's and a women's soccer team. So we were playing indoor and outdoor. Oh, wow. And there were certain seasons where I was literally on 2 soccer teams at the same time. I was on an indoor team and another outdoor team separate. So we would have like 2 soccer practices, one like on a Tuesday, the other one like on a Thursday. And in my indoor team, we would usually play like Wednesday afternoon, evening. And in my outdoor team, we would play Saturdays. Wow. The off season, I would play in the Liga Latina over here, in Phoenix. And those games were on Sundays.
It's a lot of running, man.
A lot of running, yeah. So it kept me in shape, I think, for the most part. A little wear and tear in the legs, but thank God I haven't had like any serious injuries playing. And later on I got very competitive, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go pro or do something. I don't know. Okay. So going back to high school, I was more curious about knowing who God is, because I had the Jehovah's Witnesses trying to get my attention, and I had I would see these tracts, this is Christian, and then my mom got this job at a dry cleaners. There's 2 Korean brothers, Jung and Young. I forget their last name. Young. That's what Young, something like that. Korean brothers. They owned the dry cleaners, and they were both Christians.
Oh wow!
So they were ministering
in
to
those
my mom.
Times.
They were ministering to my mom, and so when my dad, he had like a 1977 Impala station wagon, a big old boat, and he would carpool. So he would get some guys, and they would pay him just to make a little bit extra cash. My mom would make like burritos, a bunch of burritos, and then he would take them in a big old igloo box and sell them to the people we carpool with. And then one of those gentlemen was sharing the gospel with my dad. And I was like, man, God, you're answering my prayers, because again, like I was saying, my dad was an alcoholic, so he was still struggling with that. And then, like I said, my mom and dad, they were arguing more, they were yelling more, and one time it got a little physical. But there was a night where one of the Korean brothers from the dry cleaners told my mom and dad, because my dad would go over and pick up my mom sometimes, depending on the car situation, and say, hey, there's an evangelist coming, and a good friend of ours, and he's going to be ministering at our church. And he goes, oh, no. So we didn't go to the church. He goes, but, hey, do you mind him? He's going to be here for like a couple of weeks, and he's staying at our house. Do you mind, if maybe we can go to your house and do a Bible study? And,
oh, wow.
And my dad and my mom, okay, they were up to it, right?
Oh, wow.
So we'll invite whoever. So they invited my dad's, I'm sorry, not my mom's. My mom's brother, 2 brothers, a sister, and her husband. So they all came over to the house. My mom made some really good dinner. Yeah. They were Korean, so she made like sweet and sour pork, and something. Okay.
With a little bit of Mexican twist in it.
Right, yeah. So, his name was Jack, Pastor Jack. He came and he shared some scriptures, and he talked about the plan of salvation, and he goes, and we got to the point where like, now what we have to do is receive Christ as your Lord and Savior. Uh-huh. And man, my mom and dad and my aunt and uncles that were there, they were just like in tears, brother. I mean, they all gave their life to the Lord. Wow. Me and my sisters were there, and mind you, I had to go to school the next day, right? So I was pretty tired and just kind of nodding off.
But so, did you receive Christ that day? Or
no, I did not. I did not. My parents did, but like I was kind of like off to the side, dozing off with my sister. So they were having their adult talk. And we were there listening, but I was just kind of dozing off. But then before they, they closed the whole night out and, and went their ways, I remember him saying, he goes, now, you have to find your church, that shares, the word of truth. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then the other thing would be, when you find this church, get baptized. And then I remember my mom's brother, he goes, okay, can we get baptized now? And then he goes, oh, do you guys have a pool? And we're like, no, we don't. And then the Korean goes, my sister has a pool, but it's in Mesa. And you guys want to get baptized? And they're like, yeah, I want to get baptized.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know, like, okay, we're all going to go that night and get baptized. So this was
that night?
It was 11
like...
o'clock at night. And I go to school the next day still. And I wasn't going to go to bed, but my mom and dad were like, well, nobody's going to be here. We don't want to leave you guys. My little sister's like 4 years younger than me at that time. So, all right, so we all jump in, the station wagon, and then we got in the cars, and we all drove to East Mesa. I remember him calling his sister, talking to her in their Korean language. And he goes, yep, she's going to have some towels and everything ready for you guys.
Wow.
And, I didn't get baptized. My sister and I did not get baptized that night, but to see my mom and dad, my aunt and uncles, getting baptized and like literally just like
they accepted it.
Yeah, they accepted, and I didn't know any. Yeah,
going to get baptized right now.
They were like, "This is gonna be wow." And if I didn't know any better, I mean, if I even got filled by the Holy Spirit, but I didn't know those things yet.
Yeah.
I just remember them shouting out to God and just crying and just thanking Him so much for setting them free. And then my dad literally went cold turkey on drinking alcohol. I mean, everywhere we looked in the house, like when we did our chores, Jack Daniels. My mom was trying to help him like hiding stuff. Wow. Jack Daniels, Bud Light or whatever we drunk back then. He went cold turkey, and he.
Now, do you think the drinking? I know a lot of people, they mask their problems in the drinking, right? And that's why they drink every day. They're trying to get away from a lot of problems or a lot of a lot of things that they went through, trauma and things like that. You think that's what he was going through at the time, or?
So, I think so, but again, I didn't know. I mean, you look at it, it's a bit more of what do you call it? Yeah, because it's like a social thing,
Yeah, because back then, I mean, your parents didn't really tell you anything.
No,
it was like now we talk more and we're more, like, oh, let's talk to our kids about what happened here. But back then, it was like me growing up, I didn't know anything. I didn't know any backstory of my parents. I still don't know any backstory of my parents. So it's like, but I feel like back then, probably people that went through war, or depression, and all that stuff, depression was never talked about, right? You never talked about depression.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing. Yeah. You did not have any problems. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you were drinking, it was just socially. If you were doing drugs, it was just socially. It was not because of problems that you had. And it was just, so I think now we've been more open to these things, but it just, to me, when you say things like this, like, okay, it makes me think like, what happened? Like, to this day, I never knew my real dad. Okay. So I'm like, what happened to him? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But those things are not talked about. Back then, the old school parents, they didn't talk about nothing.
They didn't talk about nothing. They didn't talk about previous relationships.
Yeah.
Nothing. My mom and dad. So, you kind of hit the nail on the head there because, it's like, why is my dad drinking so much? You know? And, I thought maybe just a social thing, something to do. And I'm thinking, that's what I'm going to do when I get older. And And in high school, I started dabbling and drinking alcohol. I hated the taste of beer.
Oh, straight from like me as a teenager, when everybody said, "Oh, I love beer," I used to tell people, "No, like you're lying, dude.
Yeah,
beer tastes like piss." Like I used to tell my friends, like, "Oh, I love beer." I'm like, no, I don't love beer. Yeah. I like the effects of beer, but I don't love beer. I used to tell people, and so I actually went straight to alcohol because of just the beer. I was like, I was always an intense person. Mm-hmm. I always had an intense personality. So if I went in, I went in.
Right.
And so to me, it was like, why am I going to sit here and drink 12 beers when I can get the same effect with a couple cups of straight alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. Or just a couple of shots. Mm-hmm. And so I always went for the hardcore stuff. Mm-hmm. And which I was to me, I was unmasking all the anger issues that I had from abandonment childhood and all these things that, you know, I didn't grow up with parents or family or anything. I was pretty much on my own.
Right.
And even though I did have parents, I had a stepdad and mom, but they were always working. And so as a kid, I was, you know, I would be left alone at the house for like Monday through Friday. You know, like fourth grade, I'd go to school. I made sure I'd go to school because if I didn't go to school, I didn't eat. And so, and then, so they would go, they would work in the fields. And then Friday, you know, to Saturday morning, they would come. Friday evening, they would come like, hey, you doing good? I'm still alive. Cool. All right. Yeah. Bye. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get checked on and all right.
Yeah. That's how it was, man. And I thought that was normal, right? Like I thought that was normal.
But. So and then you see that what is normal for somebody. So again, like me, I thought drinking was normal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna drink. That's just my thing. It's in me. And so again, I didn't like the taste of beer. I hated it. And then you know, I got more into like the wine coolers.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell me. Were you a mad 2020 dude?
No.
Oh, that's so disgusting, bro.
But you know, going to these house parties and then hooking up with girls and not even my girlfriends. They were just friends, but just, you know, they became friends with benefits. I mean, they're sleeping around, and it's like, you know, here I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. You know, I'm having fun doing this, you know.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, my parents are getting more involved into, you know, seeking God.
Yeah.
And I was grateful for that. But then now it's like, you know, we started going to this church. We started going to our first Christian church, and it was Rock of Salvation.
Okay.
And, you know, it was a bilingual church. You know, so we started going there, and I remember going to the youth Bible studies. And for the first time ever, I found out that fornicating was a sin.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go to hell if I fornicate? You know,
you're like, I just started this. I gotta quit this.
I was a teenager, you know, and I'm going to house parties. I'm waiting for my next. Okay, who's gonna hook up with next weekend? So I mean, I struggled with that, you know, and then it wasn't until like 17 going on 18, and it was just, you know, I know my parents were praying for us, because I would hear my mom even like crying, like, was she crying because she's sad? Or what is she? And I'm trying to listen. Me and my sister being up, but she's just crying out to God, thanking Him first, praising His name, worshiping Him, and then she had a little, you know, concern in some of her prayers, like, I want, you know, my son, my daughters, and then praying for her mom's health, you know. And she was just daily, man. I'm like, wow, she's really committed to this. So, and then that in itself was like, you know, I know she's praying for us, for me. Then I started feeling this conviction. You know, and then it wasn't, I think it was 1988, so 17 going on 18, is when I officially accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior.
And was this at church?
No, this was at home. This was at home.
Okay.
This was at home.
So it was just, nobody was preaching to you that day. It was just weighing on your heart.
Yeah, no, but it was at home and just having Bible study. My parents would have Bible studies, and then I accepted Christ. I think one of the associate pastors was at the house, and, you know, I accepted Christ. And we had a youth pastor, but not really, because he kind of doubled as like associate, and it wasn't a big church, but it was more personal, you know, just knowing that. So if you weren't at church, they knew you. Hey,
they're coming to get you.
Where's the Rodriguez family?
Yeah. That's some old school stuff.
But you know, I appreciate that accountability. You know, because there was a season where, in years later, you know, when we got married and had kids, we would go to a big church. And it was just a season that we were going through that I think it was needed, but it was somewhere where we can kind of hide out, where we're just having a one-on-one with God and not being distracted with anything else, because we had went through a church hurt. So we separated ourselves from this church we were at before years ago. But anyway, so kind of going ahead of myself here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so 17 going on 18, in high school, and working at Mackay's, you know, I was a busboy, and then, you know, I had some friends there and that were working from school, and then, you know, it was my 18th birthday. And my friends were like, hey, just go to Armando's out there and we can chill out for your birthday. It's all right, cool. And it was a weekend.
Yeah.
So me and the guy his name is Armando, it was his house, and his parents they were out I think they were in Mexico, I think. And it was just him and his sister, both teenagers. They were just kind of left there. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
see, that's the same thing I was saying.
Yeah.
I was left alone all
yeah,
the time.
so we closed that night. My other buddies that were working, they, unbeknownst to us, they went and did a beer run and took it to his house, so we can have all this alcohol.
Yeah.
And then we get there, and we're like, oh man, everybody's here, and he had a swimming pool, so I'm gonna go swimming.
Yeah.
And then I remember looking at the bottles. I remember looking for alcohol for the bottles there. I'm like, it just something just like clicked that night. Like, you know what, God, I'm an adult now. I'm a man, and I've struggled with this. And my dad, you set him completely free, and it's like, it's a slap to his face if I continue doing this. It's a slap to your face, God. And I just like kind of to myself sitting there, and then everyone, but hey, what's up, Jimmy? You gonna drink? I said, no, man, I'm just not feeling it tonight.
Yeah.
So I jumped in the pool, hung out for a little bit, and then I got to go home.
Yeah.
And then I just went home, and I just thank God for giving me the strength that just turned.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I want to be okay in this my walk with Christ. I think he's if he's there for my dad, obviously he's there for me. And that just began my journey. And then so the following year, my senior year in high school, Daddy and I, well, actually we met my junior year before the junior was over. Just talked, but my senior year is when my Daddy and I, my wife, was when we started talking
in high school.
In high school, yeah.
Okay.
So I was a senior, she was a sophomore, and then I learned that she was a baby Christian herself.
Oh wow!
So I guess, hey, so am I. So we kind of had that, and
that's that equally yoked.
Yeah. So that we wanted to build our relationship, and I always tell her. I remember when my junior year when she was a freshman. Yeah, because she was new to the school, and I'm like, who's this? She's a brunette. Like, who's this cutie? Walking across. And then again, your mind's thinking cochino,
Yeah.
But then I'm like struggling. It's like, no, she's. I don't even know who this girl is. But anyways, so and it wasn't until like my senior year that we kind of, crossed paths, and I never forget the day that when my senior year started, I'm like, I don't know where this girl went. I didn't see her like in the beginning, like for like 2 months. I didn't see her. Like, oh, maybe she moved, or something. And I remember her telling me that her family in Tucson. Oh, maybe she went to Tucson. But anyway, so I'm walking through the courtyard in between classes, and all of a sudden here she comes, and she walks right towards me, and I didn't know. I was like, hey, I was just gonna do like a simple, hey, hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
And she just like puts her arm out, and she like hooks like her arm with my arm and literally spins me around.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, whoa! My books almost go flying, but I'm like, oh my goodness, hey! And then ever since then, she had me hooked.
This is like it's like a romantic comedy.
Yeah,
right?
So she hooked me, brother, and
that's your first interaction.
Yeah, that's that we had that type of interaction, and was like, hi, how you been? I don't know, I didn't see you. I don't know if you're still going to school here. And
yeah,
we made sure we exchanged numbers, and then we started talking. And I wish I could say that our relationship stayed abstinent, but struggled. She had her struggles. You'll probably hear one day her testimony where she was a young child. Her parents were addicted to like meth and other bikers, and
oh wow,
they would again leave her alone.
Yeah.
Her mom had her when she was 14 years old.
Oh wow,
and then she had a baby sister.
I had my first child when I was 17 years old.
Oh wow, yeah.
So
she was, sexually, molested, and I think she was actually sexually abused when she was 13 years old.
Oh,
and so those kind of things that had, affected her life, and me knowing that, and because she thought, well, maybe this is what has to happen between me and, my boyfriend, So we would give in, but there was a time after we had dated, we got to stop. I want to marry you. I want our relationship to be blessed, and we abstained for like months. She graduated in 91, 18 years old. I married her in 91.
Oh wow!
The same
right after
she graduated, we got married.
And you guys been together for how long? How long?
So we dated 3 years.
You better get this right, dude. No. You better get this right, man.
Yeah, we dated.
Watch this.
We dated 3 years, and this October 26th, it'll be 33 years married.
33 years married.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
And that's all glory to God, man, because if it wasn't for him, that we probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I think any marriage has its struggles. I'm sure you have, and any marriage has its struggle. Even, where we were in the church, going through things. And I kind of mentioned earlier, we went through a church hurt.
Yeah.
And so that was, that was kind of like for her and I, it just a lot of things happened there. But it just, not that we shied from God necessarily. I had my kind of upsetting, but we still went to church. We left it, and that's when we went to a big mega church. And
so without saying the church, because not to put the church on blast, but what happened? Because I know, listen, there's a lot of people that go through church hurt, and a lot of people that fall away because of it.
Right.
And it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, like when I first started going to church, I got chastised a lot because I was not nice. I didn't come in the proper way. I was a gangster. I was really hard. And, I would, I'll tell you this. When I first got saved, I used to bring people, just a van full of gangsters. I would pick them up. I would go through the streets, and I'd be like, get in, and they think that we're going to go fight somebody. And so they would all have bats, knives, guns, and then I'd be like, get in. And they're like, all right, G, who we gonna get? They get all pumped up. I had a van full, like there was no seats. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it was my stepdad's van, but there was no seats in the back. It was just one of those big old vans with no seats. And so I would get it all filled up. And everybody had bats, guns. I'm so glad there was not a cop that pulled me over at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because, dude, I would have been locked up. But I'm brand new Christian. I'm just like, I want to just let them know that that's God. God is real, right? I heard the gospel, and I want them to know the same feeling. And so, but they didn't know I was saved yet. And I would pick them up, and then I would take them to church. They'd be like, where we going? Who we going to get? What fools are we fighting? All this and that. And I look back, we're going to church. And they're like, what? No, what? No, what? Is he kidding? And they're like, yeah, we're going to church. And I pull in with a van full of dudes. And they're like, are you serious, G? Like, yeah, we're going to church. Come on in. And they'd go in there. And so a lot of times I didn't come, it was, I was rough the way I came in, what I would call is I got, Christian whoopings or chastisement because I didn't do things correctly.
Right.
And I didn't appreciate it at the time. And I didn't think it was good at the time. But now looking back, I understand that it came from a good heart in that pastor,
Right.
But it just, there was probably some ways that they could have came at me differently. Or there's, I was a baby Christian, so I didn't know much, and I know that they were just, they meant it good. They didn't, it didn't come out the best, and it didn't seem the best, but I understand now they were doing it out of love, and as any minister, man, we grow and we make mistakes. As a pastor, we make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes we say things that were meant good, but maybe somebody took it bad. Yeah. And so I want you, can you just say it, what happened? And if you're comfortable with that.
So basically the pastor there, there was things that were going on, there was the finances and just these pseudo 501c3 organizations, we went to a huge banquet and what is this? And I remember talking to one of the board members. He goes, yeah, man, my name's all over this stuff. I don't really dig it. And this pastor had a history of racketeering, money laundering, and he came from that,
So they were basically doing a bunch of 501c3s and some of the congregations' names and stuff.
There was some things going on. But I think a big part was like, getting control of like your families, your homes, like where even what I've heard from other church members that used to go there was, yeah, he, got like the deed to our house and
Oh,
so much control. I
so
mean,
this is turning into a cult. See, I didn't have
It's
nothing
an
like
occult.
that.
It's an occult.
Yeah,
That's what it
'cause
is.
that's what cults do. If
That's
you look
what
at
it
any,
is. So
they take control of your deeds, your finances, everything.
your marriages, they control your spouse. And my wife and I were kind of struggling with that, but then that's what we left. This is not right. She saw it, we saw it, other people would see it, but then he would just bash you on the pulpit, and then even after you left, there was people that I still considered my friends that were still going there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's talking about you.
talking about you, this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that, and controlling the ministry.
Yeah, dude.
'cause we started the ministry in '93. I think we started going to this church. I think he started that church in '97, '98. I think, I can't remember.
Wow.
But even to this day, I ran into a guy that used to go to that church, and he actually used to be my chiropractor. This guy I ran into, and he was managing. He goes, we had to go finally, and I didn't want to say, like, I'm wondering what took you so long, but I just embraced him, and
Yeah.
but yeah,
And it's hard, right? Because like people that are in those situations, it's hard for you, even if you're a friend, to go tell them like, hey, you need to get out of the situation. Because a lot of times they got to come to that realization themselves.
Right.
If I've watched a lot of cult documentaries,
Right.
man, and you have family members that try to say, hey, you need to get out. This is not safe. And they just push them even harder away, right? And they have to, until they come to that realization of themselves that this is not good, man.
Yeah, and he would preach strongly, like, against that Jezebel spirit. It was like, dude, this is who you are. And
I know those kind of preachers, man. It's overused.
That manipulative spirit.
Man.
Like, he would instill fear, and then they was doing that to my wife, and it would make me mad. And again, our eyes were open to it, and he, trying to control the ministry.
Were you a cop at this time, or not? Like, you should have. You were arrested.
Right. So at the end of it, I had just became a police officer. So we left that church in 2000. Wow. So that's when we left that church. We left it right when I was barely graduated from the academy. But yeah, so we left. We went to another church and hung out there for about a year. And then my dad, because my dad was at that church too. We all left.
Oh wow.
And there were some other families like moms and dads of friends of mine that were like my age that went to that church. They left, but their sons stayed there, and then he's caught up in all that still.
Yeah,
it's sad, man.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, because I think what it is that controlling aspect, and then they feel like this is their only family. Once you're in it, you feel like this is my only family, and if I leave here, I'm not going to have a family anymore.
You're not going to have a family. You're not going to have your own residence. Because they control us.
Yeah, and so and then in the same sense, you pushed away your actual family because to get more involved in this. So it's a difficult thing for a lot of people that see those type of situations, and they just point the fingers like, I don't see how they ever fell for that. Right. Like, bro, anybody can fall for that.
Right. And
anybody.
So I mean, us going through that personally, I don't have that judgment on anybody. Like, man, I can only imagine what that person went through.
Yes.
And then you just pray for them. But thank God, for his love, his mercy, his grace, and just had his hand upon me and my family, my kids. We're able to escape that. And again, it was hurtful. I was kind of mad at God too, allowing these things to happen and seeing other families going through things, even families getting divorced, husband and wife getting divorced, probably because of all that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not going to happen to us, But so we, moving forward, my dad started a bilingual church, and
so your dad's a pastor.
My dad was a pastor. He pastored for like 17 years. Like from that, he pastored in a small congregation. He tried having it at a school one time. where my wife used to work actually.
Yeah.
And you know, had some churches do that at school, use the
The
cafeteria.
schools are hard, man. They're
So the scheduling and all that, sometimes they conflicted. So that didn't work out. And then we got a place and we rented it, but just, you know, small groups, so it wasn't enough to keep paying the rent there. So he closed in his patio and made it a little sanctuary.
nice.
You know, and then he invested and then bought some chairs and bought the projector screen and, you know, like speakers and soundboard for worship. So we, you know, we did that for a while, and at that time we had just, you know, we bought a house out further west, and you know, we were like, you know, told my dad we want to look for another church. My kids were getting older, and it was a little bit. I hated to do it. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to support my mom and dad, but he had a good support group, you know, with some men that were helping him out. But it just, we didn't have like a really developed like youth group for my kids. They were getting that age, and I go, they need to get plugged in.
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking like, my excuse was, you know, my work is so busy. Yeah, I was busy working a lot, but I need, you know, my kids need to get plugged in, and so we you know, started looking for a church out in Avondale, Goodyear. We visited a couple here and there, and just didn't connect, right?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So one of our members, he was a new member at the time, Brother Frank. He's been a member at the Way of Life Church. Back then it was called Templo de Benaced.
Okay.
So he was a member there, and then Pastor Brooke Montoya had been, I don't know how many years by then, but we went and visited a couple of times. We had a couple of events there.
Yeah.
So we go visit, and it was a little drive for us because we're way out west, and this is like South Phoenix that we had to drive to, and it was like, we're going to make this our home.
Yeah,
We've been there since, oh my goodness, 12, 13 plus years now at that church.
Man.
And that's where we're having dinner with after we're done.
Oh, okay.
So, but I mean, Pastor and his wife, they've been very instrumental too in helping. Even from then, we've had our ups and downs, my wife and I. So, the next thing that I want to share was kind of a crucial thing for me in my walk, and even my relationship and my marriage and ministry, everything. So going through, you know, what we went through at that church, and then becoming a police officer. You know, I joined the police department, and when I did that, I handed over the ministry. You know, I was president for about 7 years, 93 to about 2000, of the Redeemed Car Club. And then so now I need to concentrate on my new career, and we actually stepped out of the ministry for.
When you started the car club, though, it doesn't seem like an easy task. Like when I think about starting a car club,
right?
Like you gotta have members, dude. And how do you get those members?
So you know,
So did you just say, "Hey, I'm gonna start a car club"?
So I know I didn't touch on that, but so basically, you know, being a young Christian, and like so the ministry started in '93. So before '93, we you know, Daddy had a Firebird, you know, when she was in high school. Me and her dad, we put a 350 in it, and again, Pet Boys had the valve covers, the chrome accessories you can put on a 350 back in the days.
Nice.
And dressed it up, and a friend of mine had a set of 15 by 10 deep dish, you know, wheels. There were the 12-hole Inkies and the DF Goodrich Low Pros. Slapped those on there, and on her back window, I put it was white and it had limo tint, you know, and in the back window I used white pinstriping, and I did it myself. I bought it like at AutoZone, or I can't remember where, but the white pinstriping, and I just lay the tape down, and I spelt the name Jesus on her back window.
Okay.
But the Jesus, but it was in the shape of the fish.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the S, the Jesus, the S was a tail, you know. So I just shaped it that way, and kind of like cholo writing, but it was shaped like a fish, and it said Jesus. And you know, the church I was going to, Rock of Salvation, you know, if there was like an outreach there, I would like a revival, and those like sister churches, I guess you could say, that they would come and have a big revival here, or if it was another church they would host it, we would go over there. Yeah. And I ran into a brother, he had a Monte Carlo, and I ran into a sister, she had a Honda Civic, with some no pros on it.
Yeah.
And another brother had like an Oldsmobile Delta 88, with some 14s on it. And so it just kind of started off like that. And I was like, hey,
so you were just showcasing that one car, but you were running into other people.
I was running into other people, and they're like, I like that Jesus you got in your back window.
Yeah.
Hey, put it on yours. Come over to my house. So we would go to like AutoZone, and we'll find something that color matched. Or they had this one like what do you call it? Like a holographic where it changed colors.
I remember those. Yeah.
And so
it's like a little tint, but it's kind of like just.
So I bought a big roll of that. So I did all the, whoever wanted down the back window, they would come over to my house, and we would just. Again, because I was very flexible, so I would sit on their trunk and I would like straddle like almost like this, and I was very comfortable. I don't have to get on a ladder. So I would sit there, put up a little blanket so I wouldn't scratch, but I would straddle my legs, toes pointed that way, and I'm
you're doing some.
I'm doing like some Jean-Claude Van Damme on the trunk of a car, and laying the pinstripe, and next we had maybe about six guys and girls, that had that in the window, and nothing crazy, just whatever we had, Daddy's Firebird and a couple cars, and then we would go to look at these outreaches, and then that back then Set Free Ministries. I don't know if you remember Set Free. Phil Aguilar, I think is his name. Yeah, it was more of a bike ministry.
Okay.
And they would come out to I want to say Encano Park, and we would hear about it, and so we would all cruise over there. And like they got a motorcycle ministry, why don't we start like a car club?
Okay.
So we started like, okay, let's start a Christian car club, and there was no, I don't remember that there was even like MySpace back then.
Yeah,
definitely no Facebook.
When I found you guys, I was at the casino out there. Going towards the 87 or I forget what the casino is over there.
Yeah,
but there was a car show. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
there was a car show out there, and I was just checking out some of the lowriders and stuff. And at that time, I was already a Christian rapper, and I remember I had this little camera and I'm filming, and then I was like, wait a minute, this says redeemed, and then I saw the first car that I saw was the Rapture on the back trunk.
Oh,
the whole Rapture. I was like,
the 77 Thunderbird.
Is sick. Yeah. I was like, that's the first time I saw you guys. And I was like, this is a Christian car club? Like, I was like, this is cool.
Right.
And then I started talking to a couple of you guys, and you guys told me like, oh yeah, we did a video shoot with Reborn. I was like, well, that's my boy.
Yeah.
Like we're doing all kinds of concerts together. That's my boy. I was like, I know Reborn. We're doing stuff together. And so that's how I met you guys. But then later on, we did shows together and stuff. But at my knowledge at that time, when like you guys were like the first ones out there.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember any other Christian car club out there.
Yeah. So we were. So I had no one to talk to about getting advice. I did talk to a guy from
being the first. Yeah.
I did talk to a guy from Set Free though, from the Set Free motorcycle ministries. Hey, what do you guys do? Because this is, of course, prerequisites. You're born again because you're a ministry.
Yeah.
Yes, we have motorcycles, and you want to try to be nice to have some nice motorcycles that look nice, and when you go out, you're representing Christ, and but beware, people look at you, they'll say you're being materialistic, and he gave me a warning.
Oh yeah.
So when we started the ministry, we got there was some backlash. Even from my own church, initially.
Yeah.
Even from my own church, initially, but there was some people that were like receptive to it, but there were some that were like, that's material.
Yeah, I get that, man, because when I first started Christian rapping, Christian rap, gospel rap, whatever you want to call it, a lot of churches wouldn't invite us in because they're like, oh, that's from the devil, rock, that was from the devil, and it's like, so I can see the same pointing fingers at the lowriders because it's like, oh, that's a worldly thing, that's not Christianity. Right. So yeah, dude, that is crazy.
And then the way I would talk to like certain either ministers or pastors that were trying to tell me, no, that's not, hey brother, I see what you're doing, but that's, you're putting material things and then I'm like, well, that's your worship team up there, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, that guitar, that thing is nice.
Yeah.
And that drum set, that is nice.
Yeah.
I wonder how much he paid for that. I wonder if he bought the cheapest thing, or does he even practice with it? Does he invest in it? Is that his instrument?
Yeah.
Is that his tool? Well, I don't know that, but I know cars.
Yeah.
I know what I want to do here, and I have a vision or purpose, a message that I want to share through this car.
Yeah.
Number one, it draws people, and then when we, even before I started Redeem, when I just had the Jesus emblem on the back, I'll be at a gas station and check out my white, daddy's car. They're like, oh, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It had, Orion system in it and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
And but it gave me an opportunity to share my faith, to share about Jesus.
Yes.
And so we would have, gatherings, sit downs, and we got serious about starting a ministry. And then one day we met at it was in Camel Park. I don't know why we always met there, but we went there back then. It was a place to be. It was a place to be in the 90s, early 90s. And we were just sitting there, just kind of round table, and just like, man, guys, and God, so I called the meeting to order, and I shared the vision I had with the friends, my brothers and sisters that were there.
Yeah.
Shared the vision that God had shared with me. It's like, I want to use our vehicles as a tool, as an instrument. And I shared with them that even like I had a dream one time that we're at a car show, and again, I've been to car shows, and we had a car that was like gold, and it was just, I don't even remember what kind of car it was. It might have been like a Buick Riviera or something.
Okay.
It was like that,
And this is your vision.
A dream that I had, before I started ministry, and the light was shining on it. The display was on a turntable, and then the music was like angels singing or worshiping. It wasn't like like hip hop, but it was just at a car show, and people were just being drawn to it, And then it just in my vision, the dream that I had was just we were just starting to pray for people. People were weeping and crying, and people with needs. Everybody has needs out there, and they're all different. And then, so I showed you, a lot of us here, we've been through different things. I've been through you. You were, and these two brothers, they were former gang rivals. They have actually fought each other, and then now they're in ministry together.
Yeah.
We had another sister that, she shared her testimony and things that she had gone through. And again, same thing going with being sexually abused. And so we have, different, things or testimonies that can reach almost anybody that's hurting in this world right now. And so now we just, we need, so we were praying, and, we need to just kind of come up with a name and any ideas. And, so we start throwing names out there, Unity or Peace, Heaven Bound, because DC Talk had a song, Heaven Bound.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, that was kind of made it to the top of my list. And then there was a song by T-Bone. Remember T-Bone?
Oh, T-Bone was the man.
Redeemed Hoodlum. He had a song, I remember Redeemed Hoodlum. And then, but we're like, I can't remember who said it, if it was me or someone else. But not all of us were hoodlums.
Yeah.
And then I go, well, what about just redeemed?
Yeah.
And it was like, boom. Everybody's like, yeah, that's it. Like that. So I was like, Lord, So we just prayed, okay, this is the name of the ministry. And then, of course, we are redeemed by the blood of Christ.
Yeah.
But so we're looking up for scriptures, and that's not necessarily our banner scripture, but we do share that when we share with people. When you look at our logo, it's got it's like on my hat, the redeemed, and then you have the sword of the spirit and the shield of faith, and the scripture. The scripture references to that, and then redeem, we use, the Lord redeems the soul of his servant, and none of those who trust him will be left desolate, or he won't be abandoned by God. So yes, we've been washed and bought by the blood of Christ, but we are his servants now. Because we made a declaration to accept him as our Lord and Savior. So that's the reason why we use that one in our banner scripture. So, and then the rest is history, man. And like you said, when we started the ministry, Daddy and I was 23, Daddy was 20. Our son was a year old, and man, brother, I mean,
Wow.
I wish I could say it was all smooth sailing, but the devil,
No, definitely.
trials and just trying to create doubt and friction. And then again, like I said early on, with just even the church, kind of like, that's not of God, and or going to car shows. We had, car clubs that were like would mock us.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay,
Yeah, because you're the only Christian car club out
but
there.
it was expected, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? There's two men out there here in the valley that accepted us from day one with open arms, and that's Richard Ochoa from Society Car Club.
Okay.
Worked with Lowrider magazine for decades.
Yeah.
And then Johnny Lozoya, who Super Events. Super Events Entertainment. He did all the indoor shows at the Civic Plaza for years.
Nice.
Those two accepted our ministry with open arms, and supported us, and they encouraged us. And then the car clubs from back in the days that will maybe look at us and mock us, because we didn't have like the best cars. And I'm not saying we do now, but I think the level that we're at now, we're competitive in that aspect.
No, you guys have some really nice cars
when it comes to going to car shows. But again, the whole purpose of that is to draw somebody in, to get their attention. What did Christ do? I mean, he got people's attention. He fed the 5,000. He healed the blind man. He raised Lazarus from the dead.
I mean,
from death.
And all these things are tools, man.
Yeah.
It's just like rapping, music. It's all a tool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that could be of anything,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever your talent is or whatever your gift is, it's just a tool to use for good.
Yeah.
And everybody has something. Everybody has something. Right. But the difference is whether they can use it for good or they use it for bad.
Exactly.
And you obviously, I mean, you could have just built a regular car club and
Mm-hmm.
Be out there drinking and whatever, you know what I'm saying? But you had a heart for God. And because of it, you used it for good. It's something that God gave to you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He showed you a vision, but it was ultimately the desires of your heart, right?
Right.
Is what God will give you, the desires of your heart.
Right.
And he uses, so because a lot of people, they'll say, oh, this is what I want to do, but I don't know if God would want me to do this or that, and it's like, I feel like if God gave you something, a talent, use it. Right. But you have that choice, whether you can use it for evil or you can use it for good.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying?
Amen. Yeah.
But God gives that to everybody.
Yeah.
There's a talent, there's something that you're good at that only you could do. You know what I'm saying? Or that you're better than, like me. I can't do no splits. I can't do no pop lock.
I can't rap.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's how, that's how we are. That's how a church should be. Mm-hmm. It's like you have the disciples, you had, all these different disciples, and they had different talents.
Yeah.
And somebody like Peter wasn't the best guy at communicating, because his communication level was like fighting with the sword, chopping people's ears off,
Oh yeah.
But Jesus still loved that, and so I think that's how it is, whether it's rapping, musician, preaching, dancing, whatever your talent is. And then the success story of what you're saying is beautiful, because you didn't have that support, but that didn't stop you.
Right.
And that's the amazing part for people that have some aspirations of doing something, and they don't like, oh, I don't have the experience, I don't have this, because you didn't have the experience. You were just like, hey, I'm gonna do this for God. I'm gonna put Jesus tattoos in the back of the windshields.
Right.
I know they're not tattoos, but that's, you know what I'm saying? Graffiti or whatever. But that was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. To me, it was, whenever I started rapping, I was just like, I just want to thank God for saving my life. I saw somebody rap, and I had poetry. I wasn't a rapper when I started. I didn't. I never dreamed of being a rapper growing up, but I did write some poetry, and so when I got saved, I was like, okay, I saw somebody rap and stuff, and I was like, oh, can I wrote a thank you poem to God. Can I rap it? And that's how it started. And then from there, some people heard it, some churches heard it, and they would open doors to me. And then, a lot of times we would just go to street and rap in the streets, because a lot of churches didn't, oh, you're from the devil, you know? So, but that's how it starts. Whatever, whether it's business or whatever God puts in your heart, just ignite it, just start doing it. And you never know what it can become.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see other Christian car clubs, but you just started it.
Right.
And now you see other Christian car clubs out here. Right. You see, and
across
and
the country.
Yeah. Which is amazing. Yeah. It's a great ministry. And you see, I've seen Christian bikes, from motorcycles to actual bikes, to all kinds of stuff, dance teams,
right? Different genres of car. Like you have even like the imports, like like the Hondas, and you have like the muscle cars.
I used to have a Honda Civic. When Fast and Furious around came out, I had one. I had it before Fast and Furious. Okay, so when Fast and Furious came out, then I was like, oh, that's nice. But it had the wing, it had it was all souped up, right? And but at the time I wasn't saved, so I would race that thing coming down South Mountain. And I remember one time I raced it, and I'm so lucky that I didn't die all these times. And right around the time I was just acting out, and I had anger issues. But then around that time, that's when God saved me. But I remember one time racing it down South Mountain, and when I got to the bottom, my brakes were smoked because I was going like 70, dude, around at the top of South Mountain, dude, which is insane that I didn't flip it over. So I thank God for that, But yeah, and then later on I got rid of that. I remember when I became a Christian, MC Soldier was like, "That's a tool. Like, use that car, dude." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, it's just a dumb car." I didn't comprehend that, but like you said, it is. You know what I'm saying? But I was. That's when I got saved, and I stopped racing, because God convicted me, and then. But yeah, I would just drive up and do shows, and then so like, dude, that's a tool right there. You're gravitating people to that. Yeah. I was like, really? I don't see it. But yeah, it's true, man.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that's kind of my journey, and I know I kind of skipped some things, but going back to, and I know on our time here, but when I joined the police department, going through the things that the wife and I went through with the church and building that, and then starting a new career. Something I've always wanted to do is be a police officer. Actually, in '90, the same year that we started the car club, I thought about.
Kudos to you, man, because I know you were out there when all the riots and stuff were happening, man. I was praying for you. I remember, oh man.
No, I remember you. I remember you calling me too. I mean, and I appreciated brothers like you that would reach out to me, because that was it was hard, man. And working,
because let's face it, man, there is some bad cops, but there is a lot of good cops like you,
right?
Just trying to be honorable.
Of course, of course. I mean, I would be lying and saying that there's officers that don't do things wrong or have what their intents are that are just not right, and I don't like those.
But that's people in general, everywhere.
Because I work so hard for the community. I work for the residents in the city of Phoenix.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to do the best I can. But if an officer does something wrong, and does it blatantly wrong, okay, thanks a lot, buddy, because now everybody's going to hate me now because of my career choice. And in that summer, it didn't even happen in the state. And there was some controversy and people's perspective of that whole thing. But yeah, 2020 was a very challenging year because remember COVID came at the same time, and then for some reason COVID didn't affect the protesters and looters.
Yeah, man, they weren't getting COVID at all for some reason. I don't understand.
I don't know, but anyway,
it's like COVID just jumped. Then they got the people in the house. That didn't make sense.
Yeah, but so the thing that happened to me early on in my career was, and again, this is responding to calls for service where it was maybe a shooting scene, and then you have 2 or 3 guys that are shot, 1 or 2 of them, 3 of them die. You have suicides. You have like murder suicides where the husband maybe kills or stabs the wife and then he kills himself.
How's the rate out here in Phoenix? Are we at the top, or what's do you know?
For
like murders and
Phoenix is big. So I mean, I think because of population, we might have more numbers than any other agency, and naturally. But I mean, it's kind of up and down. And I know in recent times, especially with like the fentanyl,
Oh God,
there's a
yeah.
lot of like overdoses going on. I mean, in my precinct alone, I would see 2 to up to 5 people dying from overdose just in my precinct from these
Jesus.
pills. You know, I've been on 24 years. I've never seen what I've seen in these last few years.
Out of
Mm,
fentanyl.
Fentanyl,
Fentanyl.
fentanyl. Yeah, it's
Wow,
nothing
dude.
compares to it. Yeah, cocaine, marijuana, meth, heroin. I mean, I've seen all that,
And the crazy part
but
about it is they're not. It doesn't seem like that's going anywhere, man.
yeah, right now it's
Even with the documentaries and the little series that they did
yeah,
on Netflix, right? It's
right,
insane because
and
the amount of money that big pharmaceuticals are producing, it
right.
just controls it, man.
So when the cartels lost their money on marijuana, because when they made it medicinal, recreational here in the states,
Yeah,
they had to find something else, and that was the fentanyl.
yeah.
China was like the biggest importer to the states of
Oh,
fentanyl,
yeah,
but the cartels in Mexico said, "Here, we'll buy them, we'll buy the fentanyl. They're
yeah.
mass producing them, and then with the way our I hate this to be truthful, is our border the way it is right now these last several years,
No, it's crazy.
it's flowing through here like butter,
Yeah,
there's no stopping it. If we could somehow secure that better,
yeah, it's an
I
issue.
I think it will help us as law enforcement have a fighting chance. Otherwise, we don't.
Yeah.
Being honest, we do not have
No,
much.
and that's and
More
so
and more people are being addicted. More and more people are dying. It's cheap now because there's so much of it in the streets.
yeah,
Um, I'm the boots on the ground. I mean, I see it.
yeah,
I can testify. I mean, I don't ever get into the politics of it because people think it goes that way, but it's like I see it, man.
yeah,
It's so much on the streets. It's just coming into our country like nothing. We work with ATF, with FBI, with other counties. Yuma, um, Tucson, Pinal County. A lot of their investigations end up in our city, in my precinct
yeah.
where I work. So we assist them in a lot of their investigations, and vice versa. We had an investigation that started in Phoenix, and it ended up in a house in Avondale where there was over 1 million fentanyl pills that were
Wow,
seized. 2 young men, were in possession of it.
wow.
So I mean, like I said, man, it's so cheap now to get. You can get them like 50 cents, or less sometimes if you buy them in bulk.
Man, that's
So
crazy.
anyway, so it's very very challenging times, and I'm my career. I'm close to the end of my career. I don't allow the politics or even the, the haters, because the truth is I have more supporters than I do
Yeah,
the opposite. There's a lot of supporters out there. And not only that, most of all is I know this is a calling that God has placed in my life
for sure.
where I'm at. Until He says, Jimmy, you can. 'Cause I can retire 4 years ago if I wanted to.
Oh wow.
But my plan again, this is my plan is next year, it'll be 25 years. I'm going to start a program. It's called Drop, which means I can work up to 5 more years,
Hmm.
and then I'm completely done. So my plan would be 6 more years in law enforcement and then be done. And I
Okay.
can still be a reserve officer.
Yeah.
Work like off duty and stuff like that. But that's my plan. But of course, God might have something different. There's
Yeah.
that scripture say many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's
Yeah,
His
that's for sure,
purpose.
man.
It's God's purpose that prevails. So
God
I
always
got
hits you within
I
detours,
I
man.
got to have that ear open to Him. And my wife too. We talk, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's a decent income. It's and that's not why I did it. But it's an incentive to keep doing it.
Yeah,
What I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And there's an opportunity to,
Well, I think,
overtime is like, there's always overtime.
yeah, no, for sure, man. Because I think
Um,
you guys are, what do they call that? You guys don't have enough
we're
police
understaffed
officers,
right
right?
now. Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
600 plus vacancies right now.
Oh, God, man.
When
That's tough.
I came on, brother, I remember squads when I was on patrol. We had 12 to 14 um, men and women on a squad. Now you're lucky if a squad has 6 or 7. So that's about half.
Yeah.
And this is citywide.
That's
And that's
crazy.
even including all the specialty details. Like now I'm on a specialty detail, which has been it's been a great blessing for me. But still, our squad got cut in half because of the manpower. They
Yeah.
had to send, we had 8, they had to send half, which is 4, back to patrol, so that they
Wow.
can, because patrol needs that. You need to respond to the call for service. Somebody needs help. You know,
So
but
I'll tell you this, man. So I've driven the SWAT trucks.
oh yeah.
And people are like, I didn't steal it. Okay, I didn't steal it. So I used to deliver them to the stations, you know, for repairs after the repairs and stuff. So I've driven fire trucks, I've driven SWAT trucks, I've driven all kinds of stuff. But the SWAT trucks, man, those were really cool, man.
Yeah.
And I would drive through some neighborhoods to get to the, you know, because you got construction everywhere out here in Phoenix. And so you would drive through some neighborhoods,
unfortunately,
man.
yes.
Yeah. It seems like they do this. Like, oh, there's traffic on that street. Let's go ahead and work on that street too. Because there's too much traffic.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I know they're not, but it seems personal sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, so I used to drive it, and sometimes I'd go through a neighborhood and Phoenix, South Phoenix, people start running, man. Because they thought I'm there to bust them or something. And I was like, I'm just driving, like, yeah, no, I'm not here for you, but I don't know. I'm going. But yeah, man. What's one of the craziest stories, man, if you could talk, that you had to involve in law?
Well, kind of what I was kind of leaning to was like the things that I would see or respond to. There's been quite a few things, but there was a like a 2-week time span specifically that I remember where it really messed me up, like emotionally, spiritually. You know, I'm looking at God, like, really, you know, it's like when I respond to a homicide, okay, you know, you had 2 guys, they were probably drug dealers, whatever, and it's, yeah, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, right? So, but you would have to shut down your emotions and just do your job.
And that's hard, man.
And fast forward about 4 or 5 years into my career, there was these 2 weeks specifically where we responded to an emergency call, and it was an injured person or unknown trouble. I can't remember, one of the two. And what it was, 91st Avenue in Illinois, which is like south of Lower Buckeye. There was a call for service that there was I can't remember if it was like a couple that were walking their dog through like a green belt and like a little playground. 2 boys, they called and says that they thought they were shot in the head, both of them.
Oh,
unresponsive. Wow. So
like little boys, or
8 and 10-year-olds. So we respond to that, and we get there, and I'm like, what in the world is
that's
this?
tough.
I'm sorry, I have it on sleep mode, and I think it's calling me a couple times. But, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And you can tell that they expired, you know, because just the injury to both of them. But I'm like, I don't know if they were shot though, you know.
So they had been there for a while.
For a little bit. Paramedics, they went ahead and just picked them up and transported them, even though they were already, you know, pretty much deceased. So we started canvassing the area. We started knocking on doors and writing out who we talked to. We got no answer at this address. We got an answer at this address. This is who we talked to. Hey, there's 2 boys. You missing? We didn't tell them specifics.
Yeah.
You missing 2 boys? You know, like 2 boys around this age. And no. And this was during summer, and the parents, you know, people were at work, so we weren't getting a whole lot of responses at the doors. As the day went by, because this is a scene, you know, it was all shut down. We were canvassing until we find something. Back then, I can't remember how many years ago this was, but back then, not too many people had like video camera, surveillance cameras on houses. So some people getting home from work, and I got a camera, let me look, and no, nothing. And then somebody calls back, hey, I just, you know, the officers came and left me a note, and I found the video of 2 boys walking. And so right away they go and look at the video, and you see the 2 boys, they're going to the playground, and then like Seconds later, you see this guy walking behind him.
Ah.
He has a metal pipe in his hand.
Oh.
He follows, goes off camera, and I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes. He's walking back really fast this time.
Oh man.
He's walking back really fast, and an officer recognized I knocked on that guy's door. So I'm trying to remember what door was it. So again, he took notes. Okay,
Yeah.
I talked to this guy at this address. They go back, knock on his door, and they detain him. And they smell the bleach. He's already bleaching his shoes and all that. They have to get a search warrant, and they find the pipe. One of the boys was a cousin, I think, visiting from Tucson. And I can't remember if he was a 10 or the 8-year-old, but yeah, so deceased. And then there was another where. So
you guys caught this guy. Did he give a reason why?
So we found out later was he was released from the Arizona State Mental Hospital.
Oh,
like
Jesus!
2 months prior. Yeah,
man.
So mental health. So I don't think they ever charged him with because of his mental culpability. He probably was basically maybe sentenced to the mental ward for the rest of his life.
Wow.
I think that's kind of how that happens. I mean, I don't know the guy's whole life or scenario and as to what his cause of his mental health, but that's what was the
man. That's terrible.
That's very terrible, man. And then really quick here. So, and then there was another within the same couple of weeks. There was a call for service. A mom called, say, "Hey, my son, he's autistic. The bus picks him up in front of our house. I went to grab something. I came right out and he's gone. The bus just pulled up and he didn't get on the bus."
Oh, wow.
So missing juvenile. Okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
Me and my partner, we were responding to an alarm call, and there was a false alarm. So other units were already headed to that missing juvenile. And as I left that alarm call to go help out with that missing juvenile, I see a call holding. It was a car pedestrian. A truck hit a boy in an orange hoodie.
Oh.
And that was a description of the missing. Of the mom was calling on her son. He was autistic. He was 10 years old. What happened was he was, I guess, anxious to go to school. And they lived south of Lower Buckeye, just around 83rd Avenue. 85th Avenue, I think, is where it occurred. He runs from the house. He runs towards Lower Buckeye, and then he darts across Lower Buckeye. Oh, wow. And a young man driving a full-size Dodge pickup truck strikes him.
Oh, wow.
And we think it killed the boy instantly. Man. There was an off-duty paramedic on his way home doing chest compressions.
Oh, wow.
But he's like, yeah, he's got no heartbeat. And
that's tough.
What really kind of jacked me up on that one was, seeing that, and there's all kinds of people that are filming it, and it was just like,
wow.
I'm yelling at him. I'm even cussing at him.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing? Come on, this is somebody's boy.
Yeah,
man. Don't be using this for whatever. And then the supervisor gets on the radio and goes, "Hey, this might be the boy that we're looking for, but let's have mom come before because when it's a young child, they still pick him up and transport him.
Yeah.
Okay. Before that happens, let's have mom make sure it's her son."
Yeah.
Dude, she gets there and she just lets out huge, just cry.
Yeah.
And and then just
thinking
about it.
Yeah.
It just gives me chills right now. But man, her pain, just see her son. And she knew, that he was gone. And then to see the truck there, the front end damage, and he hit him probably about 45, 50 miles an hour. Man.
That's tough. That's a tough job, man.
Yeah.
That's a very tough job, dude.
So those kind of things, when it comes to kids, that's always been my I hate that, man.
No, it's a very tough job,
and
dude.
then you become desensitized.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I was kind of leaning on earlier, where you shut your emotions down, and after that, like that desensitized was like stuck on an on position.
Yeah.
It affected our relationship, my relationship with God. We're still involved in ministry, going to church, going through the motions, but my relationships, there was just like no emotions, it was just kind of like a numb feeling. Yeah,
because that's you're trying to cope with those situations that you just go numb.
And it's like, man, and then it just gradually sunk its claws into me. and then it progressed after years, and that I think was kind of like the final, nail into the coffin, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was, ever since, and then you losing fellow coworker, being killed in the line of duty. So just all
Yeah.
those things, just kind of like, but it was, maybe some years went by, and then, Daddy and I were even, considering, separation or even divorce, and but God, stepped into the scene of our marriage.
Yeah.
And man, brother, I mean, God is so good.
It's amazing.
Even when we're not faithful to God, and going through the things that we were going through individually, and even as a marriage, and
Yeah.
our kids were going through their things. We were like on 5 different pages, and I'm working a lot.
That's a testimony, right?
Yeah.
When you put God first,
right, and
God
then,
will
amen, brother. When
put it back together.
even when we weren't doing that, and then that's the whole thing. That, like, my point is, even when we weren't doing that,
Yeah.
God's grace still held us
Amen.
together.
Yeah.
Things happen because, there's consequences for certain things, right?
Yeah.
But God's hand was still around, surrounding us, protecting us, putting people in our lives.
Yeah.
Pastor Burke and Sister Caroline, they were very instrumental. I mean, just I'm able to share, being transparent. My wife's able to share and be transparent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was work, man. But we walked away from our house, sold my Cadillac.
Yeah.
Just we stepped out from the ministry. My ministry at that point was my marriage, my
That's
family.
it. Yeah.
And everything that was left after we got rid of everything, what was important.
Yeah. Yeah.
The important
Yeah.
things and the priorities. And now I'm wiser. Both of us are, and not to say that everything's perfect, because it never will be. Not in this earth,
Yeah.
in this times that we're at. But we come to an understanding that we love each other, and we love God, and we will disappoint each other. Disappointments we can get over.
Yeah.
We're just not going to hurt each other. We want to be intentional about, loving and forgiving, and just building on that.
That's
And,
it.
she, years later, she went to college and got her master's degree. She's a school counselor now.
Yeah.
So I'm at the end of my career pretty much, and she's
And she's got a book, so I'm gonna have
she's
to have
got a
her on
book,
here.
and
I'm
she's
gonna
gonna
have to-
she's gonna
yeah.
be my sugar mama.
That's it.
You know?
That's
So-
it, man. That's it. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
no,
set.
that's it right there, brother.
I'm
That's
good,
it, man.
So,
Well, thank you for joining me, man. I know
Yeah.
you got to get going and everything. I commend you for all the things that you do in the police and in your ministry. You know what I'm saying, and for just being a good example, whether it's in duty or outside in the ministry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying. So I commend you for that. Thank you for being here today, man. It's a great pleasure. And so keep on doing what you're doing, man. You're doing a great job, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, man.
God bless you, man. We'll get some links here. That way they can go check out some of their cars and their ministry and stuff. They got some great cars. You guys got to check them out. So God bless you, man. And everybody out there, have a great day.
God bless you.
What's up, guys? This episode is brought to you by D1G Apparel. D1G Apparel is a faith-based clothing company created by yours truly, D1G. We got them faith hats. We got them the Lion of Judah shirts. You know what I'm saying? We got the Faith and Believe shirts. We got them Jesus Water shirts, the Game Over hoodies. And yes, we got them Believe shoes. That's right. Your boy designed some shoes. Go check it out at d1gapparel.com. This episode is brought to you by Let's Fly Products. Let's Fly Products is focused on a natural, organic way to help you be the best you and live a healthier life. Guys, go get your lion's mane. I do that. I do the lion's mane. It's a supplement, and it's great for your focus, your mental clarity. It's just great for your brain. It'll give you a brain boost. I also take the chaga. It's good for your health. They also have this thing called cordyceps. Cordyceps is good for working out. They also have some great coffee with the combination of the lion's mane and the chaga in it. So it's not just a coffee, it's a healthier coffee with great benefits. So go check them out at letsflyproducts.com.